Howdy, y'all, and welcome. I am Professor Parks, PhD, and I make content on astronomy, mental health, and science skepticism. Today, I'm going to be talking about, as the title implies, why it actually matters whether you believe the Earth is a sphere or if you believe the Earth is flat. But before I do that, I'd like to thank my Patreons, Dora Naku and Judy Bassett, who I'm seeing in the chat. Howdy, Judy. Nimrod, Stephanie, thank you for coming. Howdy, Cygnus, and Dr. Clivewell, as always. So, Tab is great, but Mellow Yellow has a much better kick to it. Anyway, so this was something I was planning on doing a couple weeks back, but, life. But yesterday, well, really, I guess this morning, I was on a server called Debate Flat Earth. And there was this woman on there. Admittedly, she was drunk. But there was this woman on there. And she was engaging with a flat earther. I can't remember exactly what his name is. And she kept asking, why does it matter? Why does it matter whether or not people believe that the Earth is flat or the Earth is a globe? And among other things, one thing she did mention was that she didn't know whether or not the sun was real or not, which I found to be interesting, which, of course, none of the other dudes in the audience apparently picked up on. But what I found to be most curious was that she raised this question in the voice chat of a server called Debate Flat Earth. So I was a little puzzled as to why she would think that wouldn't be important in such a server. So, howdy, Alan. So that kind of prompted me to do this today. I was planning on doing this on a Sunday episode of Coffee and Science, but considering the Sunday, I will be discussing whether or not the heliocentric model is in fact satanic with Jim Waterworld. Might as well do it today. Now, one of the things that got me to doing any of this, one of the things that really attracted me to the flat Earth argument and all that sort of thing, is I started watching, I guess you could call if there's an equivalent of a Flurf daddy, my globe daddy, I guess, would have been Simon and Dan. I saw his videos, and then I saw Conspiracy Cats was the next creator that I saw. And the thing that I wanted most out of these videos, because at the time, at the very beginning with these particular creators, it wasn't a point and laugh kind of thing. It was a educational sort of thing. At that point, I think the debunking community had a belief that this was actually, these beliefs were held because of simply a lack of knowledge or a lack of understanding. And I became attracted to it in the beginning because what I wanted to know, or what I wanted to learn, was how they communicated science over YouTube. I wanted to improve my ability to communicate, particularly to those who may not be as receptive as college students. Obviously, a college student has probably paid quite a lot of money to sit in my class and learn. And so they have a motivation. So how do we reach people who aren't as motivated as that? And so that's why I got into this. But then when I really started getting into the comment section, and when I started chatting with people who believe the Earth was flat, my focus changed. I still look and try to learn how to better communicate, how to better put a little bit more entertainment into what I'm doing. But now I am more focused on why. If you are a fan of this channel, and if you've watched any of the previous videos, you'll know that I have a small series of conversations with flat earthers. And so I talked to 3 or 4 or 5 at this point. I haven't really been keeping count. And my reasoning for this, as is my reasoning for speaking with Jim tomorrow, is not to convince them of anything. It's not to argue anything or try to debate them in any way. What I want is a conversation, because what I want to know is why. Why is it that folks, trying to use the most politically correct term here, why folks do not believe what the consensus of astronomy, what the consensus of scientists have to say on the subject of the Earth, the universe, and so forth. And what I've found is there are I found a few different commonalities, or sort of camps, rather, not commonalities, but camps. There are those who are very fervently religious, specifically Christian. They are young Earth creationists. They believe the Bible literally. And since mainstream science, I hate to use the term mainstream, since current science says that the Bible is in fact wrong from a literal standpoint, they reject that hypothesis. They reject that notion, and in some cases, they reject that notion rather vehemently, and get rather uncharacteristically, or at least, in my opinion, uncharacteristic of a Christian, angry about it, and get very, very emotional about it. Then there is a camp that, for reasons which I still don't understand, feel that this is not truthful, that what science is saying isn't truthful. And it's not that they think that, so for the religious folks, I have been called indoctrinated. Basically, most everyone in the flat earth thinks that I'm indoctrinated. They don't think I'm lying. There are a couple who do, but for the most part, they think that I am just a witless, indoctrinated person who is, good-naturedly, but misguidedly corrupting our youth, indoctrinating them into the heliocentric model, which, okay. But I think there are those who feel that, not that I am indoctrinated, not that I am lying to folks, but I'm just simply wrong, that there is a truth out there. There's an objective truth out there that can be known, and science doesn't know it. And so they are actively trying to look for what that is on their own, or with people of like mind. In any camp, if you do experimentation, if you try to do some kind of experiment to test your worldview or your hypothesis, I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. I have to say that I have respect for Sleeping Warrior, because he tried to do experiments. Now, his experiments were flawed, and his conclusions were wrong. But he tried. He actually tried to create an experiment to show what he believed to be true, or rather, did an experiment to try to find out what the truth was, as it were. But that gets me back into why the rejection, why the mistrust. So again, there's the religious folks who believe, or who basically cannot accept the heliocentric model because they feel that it is a violation of the Bible. And commensurately, they feel that it is somehow, in agreeing to this and in admitting that we are a mote of dust suspended in a void of a universe that had a beginning and is expanding to an unknown end. That makes them feel insignificant. I have said on previous occasions, on many occasions really, that conception I flip. To me, the idea that we are it, that this world in the vast span of the universe is the only world that has humanity on it, that makes us damn significant. I can't think of anything more significant than our existence in this moment of time, considering the vast scale of the universe, considering the vast scale not only in size, but in time. So to me, it's remarkably significant. Then you have folks who, and Dan the Waterman explicitly told me this, which I thought was rather, was very honest and very upfront. And for him, the fact that for him, the idea that the earth is flat is not really the point. He does believe the earth is flat, but for him, it is just the tip of the iceberg. He believes in a number of conspiracy theories, and I think I'm not misspeaking when I say this. And he believes that the flat earth, when you say that the earth is flat, you're going to get a lot of attention because people are like, because people cannot understand how folks in this day and age could believe that. And so it's the biggest attention grabber. And so the idea is if you grab their attention, even if you cannot convince them that the earth is flat, you can then tell them about all the other things. 9/11 was an inside job, vaccines, all the other things, 5G, all of the other things that people seem to believe that come along with the flat earth narrative. So again, why does it matter? Why does it matter if someone believes that the earth is flat or not? Because that's not a belief in a vacuum, pun sort of intended. I have yet to meet someone who is a flat earther who believes that the earth is flat and accepts everything else, that does not hold to some other belief that would be considered a conspiracy theory. They may not hold to many of the other conspiracy theories, particularly some of the more vile ones, which honestly are lurking just below the surface of the flat earth community, which I honestly believe they need to be more truthful about. But I'm not going to get into that because that's speculation and I don't wish to do that online. But I do know for a fact that there is a dark underbelly when it comes to the flat earth community. Anyway, the belief that the earth is flat is not in a vacuum. And it points to something, in my opinion. It points to a mindset. It points to a worldview. And that worldview, in turn, will dictate how you interact with the rest of the world. Because if you choose to espouse that the earth is not a sphere, that gravity is not space-time or what have you, you're going to face ridicule. You're going to face a tremendous amount of ridicule depending on what exactly your position is. And if you continue to espouse that publicly, then you are, I won't say bringing it upon yourself, but you are going to continue to endure that sort of treatment. And so this must be something very, very important to you. This must be this belief that science is wrong or lying must be important. And again, I don't think this is in a vacuum. So I would think that skepticism goes to a lot more about the universe. So that's why the shape of the earth is important. Obviously, all of us, even myself, I can go through my day without considering the shape of the earth. I can use, currently I'm playing Pokemon Go, or I have Pokemon Go on my phone, which uses a GPS signal. Do I think about the fact that GPS really can only work on on the globe, do I think about the fact that GPS is a fine example of general relativity? No. I think to myself, great, I'm surrounded by Charmanders because that's where I am right now. I'm just happy that it works. I use Google Maps to get me various places. Again, do I think about how that map would only work on the globe? No. I just give a shit about whether or not that gets me from point A to point B. If it gets me to my ice cream, I'm golden. I don't really care whether or not I don't. It doesn't even come into my mind. And I think for a vast majority of people, on an everyday scale or everyday live your life kind of way, we don't think about the shape of the earth. We don't think about the whether or not gravity is a force, whether or not gravity is curvature of space-time, whether or not it's something else entirely, or whether or not it just doesn't exist at all. We don't think about whether or not the space program is something cocked up in backstage, Hollywood backstage. But if you hold to those beliefs, there's got to be a reason why. Because everything around us, everything that we're told, is telling you that there is, in fact, a sphere Earth with gravity, with I'd say a pretty good consensus of what gravity actually is, and that we've landed on the moon, that we are currently sending out Artemis 2, the nation of India just successfully landed a lander. To say all of that is fake, to say all of that is some kind of grand conspiracy, or to believe that those events did in fact happen, but the causes of those events is wrong, is not what we're telling you it is. To have that belief, I have to believe that there is something deeper, and that's really what I'm into this. And yeah, a lot of people probably don't give a poop about the shape of the Earth, but some people do. And again, that actually raises a good point. I think that also a vast majority of people, if you walked up to them and asked them, hey, not what is the shape, don't ask them what the shape of the Earth is. Ask them, do you ever think about the shape of the Earth? I would guarantee you that the vast majority of them would say no, because it's not, as I mentioned, in everyday life, it doesn't matter. So a lot of people don't care. So if you do actually care, if you are putting forth a hypothesis that the Earth is in fact fat shaming the Earth, it is an oblate spheroid, so there's that. Anyway, if you're putting forth the idea and you are actively engaged with the idea that the Earth is flat, then there is something motivating you to do it, because you are facing negative consequences when you do so. Now, a colleague of mine, a friend of mine, pointed out that it is a great way to find community. That if you are someone who does not have a community of your own, Flat Earth definitely provides that. There are countless discords, maybe not countless, but there are many discords that you can join who also believe the same thing you do and do spend almost every day, 24/7, talking about how the flat Earth could work. If that's your sort of thing, I ain't gonna kink shame. But again, I mean, is that it? Is that the only reason? Is community search for community the only reason that you would hold such a conspiratorial, for lack of a better word, viewpoint? Because again, and I apologize if I'm repeating myself or if I'm running over the same ground over and over again, because obviously I don't feel indoctrinated, but if I were indoctrinated, that's exactly what I would say. When I teach and when I put out the videos on astronomy and so forth, you know, this is my most honest attempt to tell you what science believes. I'm being forthright. I'm being honest. When I don't know something, I tell you I don't know something. When I tell you that there's an open question, that's because there is an open question. It might be an open question to me. There might actually be research out there that has answered that question, but I try to be as upfront and honest as possible. And yet, people aren't convinced. And is that deeper reason, that core of why folks are so distrustful, even if they, I think that I have a fairly good reputation among certain flat earthers. Even if they think of me as a nice guy or a reasonable individual, they still don't want to believe what I tell them. They still don't really want to learn what I have to say. And again, my reason, or my thought, is that there is a deeper reason for that. I am not a psychologist. I'm not a sociologist. I don't pretend to be, and I'm not going to make claims that only they really are trained to make. But I think that I know enough to say that believing in a flat earth is indicative of some other desire. Is that there is something in folks' life that they are not happy with, that they are concerned about. And that allows them to take a contrary position. So that's really all I have to say on that. I'm not going to close down the stream. It's just, I haven't been looking at the comments. I've just been trying to get sort of my thoughts out and on paper. So I will now start paying attention to the comments. Oh, is this a stream to psychoanalyze people? No, Stephanie, it is not. As I said, I am not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist, sociologist, what have you. I would never dream of psychoanalyzing people. And I don't want that to, and that was a fear of mine when I thought about doing this. And this is why I have not made my opinions on this more publicly now, is because I'm afraid that I will alienate folks who think that I am trying to psychoanalyze them, that I think that I'm judging them in some way, and I'm not. I just simply want to understand why it is that people don't trust me, why it is that people don't trust the scientific community. Because again, I think this is not something that, this distrust is not simply related to the shape of the earth. I believe that this distrust runs deeper to other areas of life. So we could psychoanalyze Gary Wybanga, but all right. Let's see. Or a nice reason why I think the scientific method, creator Bible, hold them back is lack of evidence. Perhaps you have seen and got evidence that we haven't as of yet. Evidence of what specifically? Because when it comes to the Earth and the cosmology, the Big Bang cosmology, I think I provided maybe not specific evidence, but I have definitely gone on length as to what are the implications of not a flat Earth or not a globe. What are the implications of or this is why we believe, like redshift. Spectroscopic redshift tells us the universe is expanding. Have I shown that explicitly? No, I haven't. But there again, why would I need to? Why is it that you cannot take my word for it? Like, what is it about me or others and others that you don't want to, that you need to have that very specific evidence? When for great deal of people, my students included, as far as I know, they accept what I have to say and believe that I'm telling them the truth and that I am factually correct. Explain water sticking to a globe spinning at. Stephanie, I spoke with you about this in the comment section in one of my videos, and yes, the Earth is spinning at 1,300 or 1,037 miles per hour at the equator, and that is a big number. However, what isn't a big number is the rate of rotation angularly. As I mentioned in the comment, if the angular speed of the Earth is half as slow as the hour hand on your clock, if you were to measure the hour hand, the angular, how long it takes to go 1 degree on your clock, how much that happens, divide that by 2, that is how quickly the Earth is rotating. And I think you'll find that that is not a lot. It's a very, very small amount in relation to things, at least in relation to the Earth. So, no actual legit adult physicists whatsoever violated. The age of the Earth, redshift, accelerating space-time, demonstrations of that. Explanations not good enough. Sometimes seeing and even doing it or seeing it demonstrated is required. Why? Why is that not good enough? That, again, is my question. Is because, and this is what is problematic with modern science, is that this work is available, and it is actually available for free. At least the pre-peer-reviewed parts of it are. If you go to archive.org, archive.net, I can't remember what's. If you go to archive, to where all of the papers are submitted just prior to peer review, and all of those are free access. And I can tell you from experience that for the vast majority of those papers, the ultimate points are not going to change overly much. They might, because of reviewers' comments and things, the paper theoretically will improve. The reviewers will tell them, this methodology, you need to flush that out. You need to expand what you mean by what you're doing, or the author needs to kind of redo that part of the analysis to really drive home the conclusion they're trying to make at the back end. So, so you can find it. You can find it, but the problem is that it's written in a way, for hopefully obvious reasons, these are professional papers. And so you have to have some kind of base knowledge. You have to have a functional knowledge of what is going on in order to understand what it is they're trying to say, to understand the evidence that is being presented. And that isn't easy to come by. Not because people are stupid. Not because people are stupid. As I like to say, everyone is capable of doing some advanced level or having some advanced knowledge in some area. The problem that the issue that you run into is, people say I'm not good at math. For myself, I say that I'm not good at math. I'm looking at in comparison to the applications of my science or of my field, in comparison to what cosmologists are doing, in comparison to what particle physicists are doing. My math isn't sufficient. Am I too stupid to know it? No. But since it doesn't come naturally to me, since it doesn't come easily, I have to put in the effort. Very much like I had to put in the effort for getting my PhD, for learning the things that I've learned. In that case, I was very willing to put in the effort. Maybe not all that willing to write the damn dissertation, but I was very willing to put in the effort because that was something I wanted to know. I legitimately wanted to know. I had the drive to work past the uh, roadblocks, to work past the boundaries that were in front of me in order to do it. And I think that's true for everyone. If you want to know something, if you want to have an advanced knowledge of something, you need to put in the effort. And you need to want to put in the effort. If I wanted to know finance, I know nothing about economics. Basically nothing about economics. Am I too stupid to know it? No. I just find economics exceedingly boring and exceedingly tedious. So there's no way I'm going to put in any effort to learn about micro and macroeconomics, what supply and demand actually means, what the fucking NFT is. I don't care. And I'm happy with not caring. And I will tell people, and I've often told people this, doesn't matter. Like, if people judge me on that, I don't care about that either. So, yes. So, I think that it's. Now I've completely forgotten where I was going with that. But yeah, I've completely forgotten where I was going with that. You can't compare a 30-inch circumference to a globe. From an angular standpoint, you can, which is why we do that. That is precisely the reason why we do that. That way you can, a something that is moving 1 degree per second is moving 1 degree per second regardless of its size. It's still 1 degree per second, which has a certain speed. Yes, your tangential speed out here is very would be very large if you had a very large lever arm. But from a physical standpoint, from the forces involved, you're still only dealing with a degree per second, and actually that's far too large in these circumstances. Messier return in recent years. I've had a lot. I'm trying to enjoy the answer the questions. You're trying to answer questions. Okay. Why do you reject the answers that you've been given? That's ultimately what it comes down to. Is I applaud you for asking the questions. I'm glad that that you watch these videos, that you comment in my comment section. Although I think I may have upset you enough that you probably won't ever come back. But so again, it comes back to why is it that you won't accept the answers that are given? Yes, at the equator, but near the poles, it is far smaller than that. It is far slower than that. It is that 15 degrees per hour is constant over, no matter where you are. Only the linear speed matters in only linear speed matters in terms of position. It's a function of latitude. The other thing that with that I also don't understand quite. So the reason why that speed seems like a huge factor is, for example, if I'm traveling at 88 miles per hour right before I go through into the past, and I stick my hand out the window, that is a tremendous amount of wind that is hitting me. And so 1,000 miles per hour would just seem like a huge amount of water, a huge amount of wind affecting me, huge force. But if I'm sitting in the car with the windows up, I'm still going 88 miles per hour, and I feel nothing. Well, I feel the bumps, but I feel nothing, really. If I'm traveling in an airplane, Same thing. Even worse, I'm traveling at 300 miles per hour or whatever it is that the cruising speed of an airliner is. Again, I feel like I'm just in my car. So thank you, Stephanie. I'm glad I didn't upset you. So yeah, it's so yeah, that's basically it. If anyone out there who is a flyer, Stephanie, Rachel, or what have you, would like to come on and have a voice conversation with me one-on-one, that would be great. You're not obviously not obligated to do so, but yeah, I just don't know. You know, yeah. At the risk of repeating myself, why is it that you reject? Because we've given, yes, the 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. Yes, big number. It would seem from from a common sense point of view that things would fly around traveling at such a speed. But we have answers for that. Physics has answers for that, and you don't trust those answers. You don't accept those answers. So again, I don't know how to put this well, but if you're trying to find good answers, why are you rejecting the ones we're giving you? Let's see. The Earth is not an enclosed system. If that car was at 1.5 million kilometers per hour while you accelerate and retrograde every 12 hours, is acceleration, and even our vestibular system should detect. Okay, apparently I'm just slow today because I don't understand this. The Earth is not an enclosed system. Yes, I agree. If that car, this is probably a comment to something else, which is probably why I don't understand it. If that car was at 1.5 million kilometers per hour, which would be, that may be faster than the speed of light, while you accelerate and retrograde every 12 hours in acceleration, even our vestibular system should detect it. I'm assuming the vestibular system, because again, not a biologist, assuming the vestibular system is the biological thingamadoob, technical term, that determines how we know something is moving, how we know we are moving. If you're inside the Concorde, you can easily walk up and down the aisles. Yeah. We can easily, let's see, set something up again. I know our great. Okay. Do you have my email? Because I think that would be a much easier way to set things up. Because at the moment, the only way that I know how to communicate with you is either here or through comment section. So if you don't know what my email, and this is for anybody, if you don't know what my email is, it's right there. So if you'd like to have conversations with me, I think Stephanie has actually emailed me once or twice. If you have email, if you have questions, comments, whatever, please feel free to email me and I will answer them as best I can. Nimrod, she may have shit to do. She I believe she has children, so she may be needing to keep an eye on them. So, this was not a. Oh, you have not emailed me. For some reason, I thought you had. Maybe because I get YouTube comments in my email, I thought you'd email me. But anyway, yeah. So there you go. She has things to do with her kids. So, let's see. Go to your local university, library, browse the science shelter for a few hours. Note that you have no idea any of this. Note that you have had no idea any of the scientific research existed. Why are you in this conversation? Well, I think Raichi is very well educated in this. For a layperson, I think Raichi has a very good grasp of science, which makes why she doesn't think that the Earth is a sphere, that space time exists, all that kind of good stuff. That's why I'm even more curious of why I would really like to have a conversation about it. But that goes to another subject, or to another problem. I think, at least with I can only speak to the U.S., but obviously, education, higher education in this country is expensive, and in some cases, prohibitively expensive. You have people who are bright, you have people who are motivated, but those people are also very poor, and it is a almost criminal, almost morally reprehensible idea or circumstance that these people are not allowed to pursue their dreams, to realize their potential in certain areas. I'm not going to say how many of those people exist, but they exist. I know they exist. They have to exist. And even people who can initially afford it, they may not. Their life may change, and they may not be able to afford it, and they drop out. Education, particularly on this scale, should be free. And I put out content the way I do, although not much lately. Astronomy content, because I want that to be free. I want that people to have that. I guess you get what you pay for. So obviously, you got me. But I think that information needs to be out there. That anyone who is any YouTube creator who is out there, who is trying to educate, not just talk about stuff, not just say, James Webb just found a nifty question mark galaxy. Actually trying to teach, I think, is nothing against them, nothing against those science communicators. They are very valuable, but I have even more respect for those who actively try to engage and actively try to teach. Most people that question cosmology are extremely smart people. I am really not in the practice of commenting on whether or not someone is intelligent or not. But questioning cosmology, well, as it goes, question everything, but not to the point that you don't want the answer. That if I were to go to a doctor and he told me, hey, you got cancer, I'm like, well, that sucks. I don't want cancer, so I'm not going to believe you. And then I go to another doctor, and they say, yep, you got cancer. Again, I have this choice. I have more evidence from a professional that I have cancer. I can do one of two things. I can accept it and then follow their recommendation and move forward. Or I can say, no, I don't want cancer. I don't like that answer. And I move on and be like, all right, I go to a homeopathic doctor, and they say, yeah, you have cancer, but don't worry about it. It'll be fine. And you feel better about that. I don't know. My analogies ain't my thing. And a client, yeah. I mean, but even still, assuming that's I believe that's the high school equivalent in the UK. I don't know how it is in other countries. In the States, you can graduate high school without really taking much physics, or really any. I managed to do it with chemistry. I did take a chemistry class in my sophomore year, but I didn't take anything else. And after a few years, I know very, very little about chemistry at this point. Hell, I call everything other than helium and hydrogen metals. So yeah, I know nothing about chemistry. Um, as long as it's after 11 p.m. my time, so that is after 11 p.m. Subtract 4, Rob. Come on, you can do it. 7 here. All right. Um, okay. Seems to be the most medical transcriptions. You don't trust doctors and hospitals, as I know it's a for-profit business. Yes, healthcare in this country is redonkulous. Is also borderline morally reprehensible. And I realize that there are bad actors in hospitals. Uh, but on the other side, my father was a research nurse. My mother was someone who worked in the IRB. So I also know that there are trustworthy people, or are trustworthy people in the medical community. Um, so, kind of as a kind of as a again, you don't, Stephanie, you don't believe that the Earth is a globe. I'm assuming because you mistrust the answers, and you also mistrust the medical community, another group of scientists. So again, this is somewhat supporting my idea that believing the Earth is flat is not something that happens in a vacuum. If you don't believe the Earth is a globe, chances are there are other things. There are other things that everyone else accepts that you do not, or flat earthers do not. Let's see, 2 hours from now, I will. I will not be streaming for another 2 hours. I have the opportunity. Actually, I am rather excited about this. So George Mason is in partnership with someone. I actually don't know who, but we have a group of Afghan refugees who the university is sponsoring in some way, and they are coming to our observatory, and I'm giving them a public talk, and we're showing them the telescope. From my understanding, not many of these children understand English, and even those that do not understand it well, so they'll be translators. So I'm just very excited to be able to do this, to be able to share something that they really never had the opportunity, truly have never had the opportunity to experience. And so, yes, I love it. Yes, insurance companies, I think, need to be completely either gone, which would, the whole single payer or socialized medicine or what have you, or heavily regulated, far more heavily regulated than they are now. Insurance companies are, again, they're out for profit. I don't know, just the concept of being in a for-profit business and your profit is dictated by someone's health. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see how that's more. Pharmaceutical companies, also horrible people, in my opinion, because again, they, as I mentioned before, did Pfizer do what it did because of altruism? No, Pfizer did put their product to market first because they knew they were going to make a ton of money with it. So are they? Yeah, they help millions of people, hundreds of millions of people, perhaps even billions of people. But let's make no mistake, they did it for money. And yeah, I find that to be reprehensible. However, on the flip side, particularly for pharmaceutical companies, I don't see another alternative because governments, again, U.S. government, is not willing to shell out the money necessary to invest billions of dollars in order to provide, in order for research in medication to move forward. There, we're just not. So, um, let's see. Yeah, yeah, Nimrod, it is. Yeah, that would be. It's 4 now, so I guess it's. Oh, is it 5 hours ahead? Because it's 4 o'clock now, so that would be. That would be nine there. So 5 hour difference. All right. Doctors are at the mercy. I wouldn't say doctors are at the mercy of the CDC or FDA. The FDA actually has very, very little teeth. The CDC doesn't really meddle or doesn't really have is not really involved in the day-to-day operations of medicine. The AMA, I will grant you, because they have the ability to yank someone's license, they are in fact they do in fact have a certain amount of power. But I don't know what policy decisions they make. But do I trust the government? Not really. But do I believe that they are evil? No. Do I believe that certain members of my government are compassionless? They have no compassion. They have no empathy. They are in it for the bottom line. They are in it for their own self-aggrandizement. I guess that's redundant. Yes. Holy crow. Yes, I do believe that. But as an institution, I trust my government. And yeah, I also understand why they have to keep things secret, because things would not work well if everyone knew the dirty little secrets that the government had to do. This is this comes from the tiny Kissinger in the back of my brain, the real politic, because the world works in a certain way, and that way isn't pretty. And I don't think that if all of the deep dark secrets of this country were, or any country, were displayed out for everyone to criticize, everyone to scrutinize, that the government would actually even stand. I think there would be a tremendous amount of result. You're a conspiracy theorist because you don't trust healthcare system. No, I did not say that. I did not say that you were a conspiracy theorist because you don't trust the healthcare system. I am saying that it would appear that you do not trust scientific institutions. So I did not call you a conspiracy theorist. Uh, perhaps I'm being semantic, but yeah, I don't know. Only you can say. And again, if you want to come on and have a chat, I'm not trying to. Again, I'm not very much trying not to judge people. I'm trying to understand why there is this distrust of experts. Rob is in cahoots with the U.S. government trying to hide alien evidence. Mm-hmm. Well, I do have to say this. If I were getting NASA shield checks, I wouldn't care about monetizing this channel because, money, 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 money. But I don't have money, 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 money. So, yes, I am trying to. What scientific institutions do you not trust? Apparently, I would say that you do not trust physicists, astronomers. You do not seem to trust the healthcare system. So those would be scientific. Nimrod, no. Be very careful with those allegations, Nimrod, because someone might come knocking. Perhaps the one that tried to tell me a paper or cloth filters virus. It does. The N95 mask, I believe, does. The virus is of a certain size, and I think they can make paper that is thick enough or filtered enough that it can, in fact, shield against a great deal of virus. And Not all of it, obviously. There is going to be some leakage, but a significant portion of it. So with me, when it comes to trust, particularly of trust of folks that I do not personally know, and this can be anywhere from the CDC to Mike the mechanic. If I go to a mechanic and he tells me, yada 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 is wrong with your car, and I'm going to take $2,000 worth of your money, I might go to a different shop, and I might distrust him and go to a different shop. And if they told me the same thing or something very very similar, I have had that happen where I've gone to a different shop and they were like, "Yeah, this little thing that he wanted to charge you on, you don't really need it, at least not right now." And so they were able to cut my budget down or cut the bill down a little bit. I'm like, okay, so I don't trust Mike. It's not that I distrust mechanics. I distrust Mike because obviously he apparently his love of money is larger than his his code of ethics, or is more important than his code of ethics. Mike and the Mechanics, good band. That might be subconsciously why I thought put those two things together. Not paper or cloth research. Research what? Research where? So getting back to that, my ideas of trust when it comes to these grand institutions or even people is that I will trust until I have direct evidence, real evidence, tangible evidence that they are in fact wrong or they are in fact cheating me. I have no direct evidence. I have never seen direct evidence. I mean, let's say because of YouTube's weirdness, let's talk about 5G rather than, the thing that happened a couple of years ago. I don't think YouTube gives a shit about 5G, talking about 5G. There are a number of people, Mark Steele, for example, will tell you that 5G causes cancer, that 5G is harmful radiation. And he will spout sources which back him up. But I also have seen sources, and from my own experience, from my own knowledge, I understand that 5G radiation is not ionizing. I don't know. I make no claim as to whether or not 5G will have long-term health effects. I don't know because we haven't used it for long enough. And I think anyone who makes a claim that 5G will not have long-term health effects is either naive or lying. I do believe that it's safe. I do believe that it's safe enough to use long-term. But we don't have that data. And if you don't have the data, you can't make an assessment with any sort of confidence. So 5G, I don't have evidence. I don't have tangible evidence. I don't have the research for it. It flies in the face of what I know from a physics standpoint. And so I'm going to trust people who tell me that 5G is harmless or reasonably harmless. But the size of the virus the size of the virus versus the size of an open weave or all right. The question then becomes, what is the size of the virus? What is the size of the opening in an N95 mask? If you can tell me that, and if you can show me that, what the size of that particular virus is, and the spacing of an N95 mask, then I will really sit up and look into it. And this is the same thing I've said with Flat Earth, is if you can provide me with evidence, with something tangible that I can evaluate, rather than just simply claims or just simply demonstrations, then I will set up a notice take notice. I hope you will trust me that I have the integrity to do so. Dan the Waterman was kind enough to have faith in me to share data, which was apparently his proprietary. Apparently, it's not supposed to be out there for the general public, but he trusted me enough that he showed it to me, and it was data taken for long-range laser tests of um, long-range laser tests over distance, or long-range distance tests. The idea is if the Earth has curvature, then you would not be able to see it at the back end. And I looked at the data, and he was making certain claims about that this debunks the globe. And I looked at it, and it's incomplete. I'm not saying whether or not it debunks the globe or not. I'm saying that data set is incomplete in that what needs to be shown, and maybe this is my own fault for not taking upon myself to do this, but as I told him, all right, you have now shown me data where laser light can be seen from 21 miles away. Okay, great. You have given me temperature, and you've given me weather data. Groovy. Presumably, from that data, I can now calculate or have some vague understanding of what the diffraction, what the amount of refraction is going to be from point A to point B, because obviously that is what we claim to be the reason for why you can see too far. But what I need, and what I told him, and I'll tell this to anyone else who's a part of that project, what will get me to change my mind, or rather to look with vigor, is what you need to tell me is what is the range that the globe says can be seen with those weather conditions. Because if the globe model, I really don't like using that term, if refraction tells me that I can see a distance of 50 kilometers, and you tell me that you saw a distance, you could see a distance of 21 kilometers, that doesn't tell me anything. That works on a flat Earth, that works on a globe Earth. It is proof of, or is evidence of, nothing. So when we do experimentation, and I've said this, and this was something probably 6 or so months ago. That is the recommendation was N95. I don't think a lot of people followed it. I do remember that the CDC was recommending after, obviously they were saying don't use masks because, and they weren't clear about why. They just said don't use masks. The reason why they said that was because they were afraid of a shortage for medical professionals. When they realized we can make more masks, which I don't know why that didn't occur to them, then they said wear masks. But again, even with cloth masks, in order for me to change my opinion, because I naturally go from a point of trust, you're going to have to show me why, or show me the virus, the size of the virus, show me the perforations in the mask, and show me that there is essentially no impedance to the progression. Because there are studies that were put out that stated that masks were effective in containing the disease. Therefore, again, I have that evidence. I can look up those papers. I can read those papers. I can evaluate their methodology. Granted, I'm again not a biologist, so my expertise in that area, or my ability to interpret the data correctly, is limited. But at least I can look at it, and again, I can trust them. And I never understood the whole idea of masks because, yeah, wearing masks was uncomfortable. But the choice that I had was, all right, I can be in discomfort. So there are essentially two outcomes. If someone with, if I have the disease, I have two outcomes. I either don't pass that disease on, or I pass that disease on. I'm causing harm to someone. I will be causing harm to someone. If it doesn't kill them, even if it only minorly inconveniences them, I am doing harm to someone else. I'm told that wearing a mask will help prevent harming other people. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it sucks. But there's a chance that it's not going to harm other people. And I think that's worth it. I think that is very just. I do not understand why folks have such an objection to wearing the masks. So take that as you will. But where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so with the flat Earth and all that kind of good stuff. I have said, although I did say that I would help organize it, I did fall through with that, but that's on me. Is really what needs to happen is the flat Earth community, members of certain members of the flat Earth community who are genuinely interested in performing tests as to whether or not the Earth is flat or globe. They need to get with folks who are trained to do that sort of analysis, to do that sort of experiment, or at least trained enough that they, in experimentation, they can at least guide you to what you need, what is necessary, specifically what is necessary for the test to actually test your hypothesis. I think there needs to be a collab. I think that can be done. I think because right now, what I've seen are flat earthers doing experiments, presenting some few experiments, presenting their evidence. The globe, we look at it, we tell them why it's wrong or why it doesn't say what they say it does. And then we have the globers, the debunkers, who do their own experiment, like Matt, like Toon. They have done their own experiments to show that the Earth is a globe. And they have numbers in a spreadsheet, which is great because from my standpoint, I've used that in my classes. I'm like, here is a practical example of how you, my students, can do this if you want. It is an excellent tutorial on how a scientist, particularly from an astronomical perspective, how an astronomical experiment is run. Right. But the flat earthers or the skeptics are not involved in that process. And so because they are naturally skeptical, you can call it unreasonable, you can call it whatever you like, you can judge it however you like. The fact remains they are skeptical. Whether you think they are justified or not, they are skeptical. So I believe the next step has to be, if you truly want to try to bring these folks over to the side of science, I think you need to cooperate. I think we need to actually collaboratively come to the table and create an experiment that is understood by all, that is accepted by all. Run that experiment and see what happens. Now, but that's a huge challenge. I recognize that's a huge challenge because I also recognize that there are members of the communities that are dishonest, that they don't want to do this. They just want to create strife. They just want to create conflict for reasons that they have, Could it be financial? Sure. Could it be that they want to feel important? Sure. I don't know what those reasons are. It's kind of the point of this little stream. There are bad actors out there who, when push comes to shove, when told or when asked, I have an experiment. Will you assist me with it? Will you, and then will you accept the results at the back end if you are part of the whole process? If you get to see how the sausage is made, will you accept it? I believe that there are people out there. There are certain members of the community that will say no. That will obfuscate. They will just simply say no. They will not actually do it. Why? Again, I don't know. Do they fear the results will provide strong evidence that what they're saying is wrong? Could it be that? Could it be that they're just not interested in actually knowing the truth? That they have their motivations for doing this are such that it doesn't matter what the truth is. All that matters is that they profit over it somehow. I don't know. We can agree that a test and accepted by all, that would be fab. Some still will still have biases, but that won't be able to overcome, unfortunately. Yes. The problem with using water to test gravity, particularly water sticking to things, is, as was mentioned, there are a number of, the conflating variable that I'm aware of is obviously surface tension. Surface tension will cause the water to not fall off. It will hold the water together in some way. There is viscosity of water. How easily does it flow? But the main problem is that you cannot replicate the mass. You cannot replicate the gravity. Because if you're going to compare apples to apples, then the mass of the ball has to be the mass of the Earth, or comparable in some way. Or if it isn't, then you should be able to determine just how quickly the water will fly off. So I suppose I would imagine it's extremely complicated, but I suppose there is a way to test whether or not gravity exists with a spinning water ball. Because gravity is there, gravity is affecting that system, but there are so many other factors involved that I don't know if it's how easy it is, or really how practical it is to be able to separate gravity from those other factors. Surface tension doesn't explain oceans, lakes, ponds, rivers. No, it certainly doesn't. Gravity explains that. And as I just said, in order to be able to explain what is going on with an ocean, you're going to need to be able to either replicate the exact situation in terms of mass, temperature, so forth and so on, or you need to scale it so that you can, to a situation where you can. So take the amount of water that's on the surface of the Earth and compare that to the Earth as a mass, and then shrink everything down. So if you take a ball that is, that has the density of the Earth, 5.5 kilograms or grams per cubic centimeter, you take a ball that has that density, and then you scale the amount of water down and put it onto that ball, that at least gets you closer. That is at least a better experiment than just putting water on any sort of ball and spinning it. But we stick to the grounds, rocks do pretty much everything. Yeah, so with water, nothing about the shape of the Earth here. Yes. I would agree with that. I mean, I guess when I think of, I connect that to the shape of the Earth is because I'm going a step further. And when you talk about if there is a force there, then given a sufficient amount, if there is a force there, then we can determine the properties of that force. And if there is enough of that property, then that should turn into a sphere. That force should force the thing into a sphere, particularly if it's malleable at the stage of formation. So tension is a non sequitur. Again, you can. I truly think you could. I just think that it would be difficult and it would be unpractical because I can do other experiments. There's the Cavendish experiment. There is, as I made a video on, there's the inclined plane experiment, which is very rudimentary. How that relates to gravity is that it demonstrates that there is a gravitational accelerator, there is a downward acceleration of a certain magnitude. That is directly tested. That is something you can calculate, that you can measure and then calculate. That is absolutely demonstrable. How do we know this is gravity? Because Newton formulated his force of gravity. From that, if you put in the mass of the Earth and put in the radius of the Earth, and more specifically, even the height of the block to relation to the center of the Earth, rather than just the radius, if you put all that in, you get it naturally falls. Then an acceleration would be produced of a certain magnitude. And as it happens, that prediction of 9.8 meters per second, simply from Newton's equation, the mass of the Earth, the radius of the Earth, that prediction matches the inclined plane experiment. Therefore, that is considered evidence that gravity is a thing. And in that video, I challenge folks, if you can, I don't care what you want to call it. It's, quote a Sleeping Warrior, you could call it unicorn farts. I don't care. If you have a formulation that can make a prediction that gives me 9.8 meters per second, then you've got my attention. You really have. Let's take electrostatics. If you can, electrostatics, same formulation. Instead of masses, you have charge. You have radius. You can measure the charge, net charge. I don't know how to off the top of my head, but I'm fairly certain people can do it. You can measure the net charge of the block. You can measure the net charge or look up the net charge of the Earth, and you can run through that again. You can run through the formulation. That will give you an acceleration. And if it matches 9.8 meters per second, groovy, we have something to work with. If it doesn't, then that hypothesis needs to be rejected. That is the scientific method. So, Cavendish experiment is a joke. Why do you think that? Reciprocal zenith tests proves that gravity isn't parallel, therefore water curves. Well, to be pedantic, all a reciprocal zenith test tells us is that the downward force, bias, whatever you want to call it, isn't parallel. That would thus have the implication that water curves. But again, no one from the flat Earth, as far as I know, has ever done that experiment. And no one has walked someone through that actual experiment. And I'm not saying that people have to. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that if you truly want to get, I think my recommendation, if anyone gives a shit, my recommendation is if you want to do reciprocal Zane things and you want them to understand it, then you need to get a flat earther that will actually engage, not someone who doesn't have the actual intellectual honesty to say that the earth is flat, for example, and get them to do the experiment with you. And so they can see what is going on. They can demonstrably show what is going on. The what? Okay, it's hard to replicate. I'm assuming this is in relation to Cavendish. Why does that make it a joke if it's hard to replicate? Howdy, nerd alert. Cavendish's experiment was an amazing piece of science, and Blue Marble Science can't get enough credit for replicating it. It is both were truly impressive. Yes, yes, it was. So why is it that so if it's hard to replicate, why does it make it a joke? Because I think I know scientific proof should be repeatable. It is, and the Cavendish experiment has been repeated. But the implication that I'm hearing, and I could be very wrong, but the implication that I'm hearing is that science needs to be repeatable by everyone or anyone. And that is not part of science. Science just states that it has to be repeatable. Blue Marble Science repeated it, got the same results. That experiment has been repeated a few other times in history. He is the expert. He could tell you exactly what those were. Granted, the experiment kind of sucks, but Pasco actually produces a Cavendish apparatus that you can use at home. I don't know how much it costs, probably a couple $100, so it might be prohibitive. But you can buy a Cavendish apparatus to test Cavendish yourself. But admittedly, it's not a very precise instrument. The error on those things is ridiculous. It's like 20%. But from an illustrative standpoint, it provides something of a demonstration. And again, as a teaching tool, it shows the scientific process. Experiment, though, the apparatus is not very sophisticated. It's not very good. Let's see. Yes, Blue's science and woodworking were fantastic. Let's see. Cavendish's experiment Nimrod was you have two masses and you have two large masses and you have two smaller masses on a torsion bar. The force of gravity is going to cause that torsion bar to deflect, which is going to cause, if you shine a laser on a mirror attached to that torsion bar, you can see the deflection. And by timing that deflection, because the torsion bar, the force of gravity is going to attract them, the torsion is going to pull it back, and then backwards and forwards, at least as far as I know. What I do know is that on the back end, you get a sine wave of the laser's position. And from that, you can get G. You can get big G. The problem, the reason why it is kind of a pain in the ass to measure is that, one, you need to scale it up large enough. He had sizable balls, sizable lead. I think he was using lead spheres. And the instrument itself was very precisely tuned. He spent a great deal of time trying to find, because Cavendish, I don't believe, explicitly stated in his work what the wire was that he used to suspend the torsion bar. Blue had to go through many iterations of trying to figure out A, the right material to use, and B, the gauge width. He didn't want something that was too flimsy. He didn't want something that was too rigid. So that's essentially it. With Cavendish, a container of gas, solids, gas, liquids, and solids not show any displacement or acceleration. Not sure what you mean by that. Now, is it true that did Bloom do an exhaustive method to demonstrate that electrostatics was not involved? I wouldn't think so. I would have thought that he could have done more. But on the other end, he did replace the metal sphere on the torsion rods, I think. Or no, I think he might have replaced one of the masses with Coke bottles, which should not have a charge. They should not really collect a charge. And lo and behold, he got the same effect. So to me, that's pretty good. It's considering that he's already. This is not a first trial. This is a confirmation. Then I don't think that's warranted. That's necessary because he confirmed it. Research people trying to repeat Cavendish experiments. Yeah. Yes, if they have. So again, why is it a joke? Why is it a problem that only researchers who have the equipment and and the expertise to do the experiment? Why does that make it a joke? Because Blue is not a physicist. He's, as far as I know, not an experimentalist. Or obviously he's a carpenter, a rather proficient one at that. But I know that he flew, but I've actually honestly forgotten what his main profession was. But I'm fairly certain it was not research scientist of any sort. So why is it that when a research scientist does it, that's a joke? Let's see. Oh, you have? I've only used the Cavendish experiment a couple of semesters, the Pasco one, and I couldn't get the students couldn't get the error to 20%. Like I said, it is a great demonstration. It is, as I said, it is a great demonstration of the principles involved and the scientific method on how to do the experiment. But if you wanted to actually know what G was from one of these store-bought Cavendish devices, you're not going to get very close. If you can, I would love to see that. But from my experience, from when I've done these experiments using that material, that I have not gotten that precision, or my students have not gotten that precision. So could be that I'm not a very good experimentalist, which I'll own. Do you have one there, GM? I don't know actually. The physics and astronomy department here is weird. We are, in some ways, we are more integrated than in other physics and astronomy departments that I've been in, and in other ways, we're not. Like, I don't have access to, and I don't even know who to go to get access to our physics equipment. I've been wanting to, astronomy has their own equipment, and we don't have one. But astronomy has their own equipment. We don't have it. Physics might, but I haven't looked into it. Maybe I should be able to. Who's being honest? I'm always honest. That's a lie. Cabbage similar I ever saw was a lead ball the size of a tennis ball suspended by a wire connected to a scale. A larger lead ball the size of a there seems to be a conversation with Rachie in terms of free fall and what have you. Depends on your method, drag, friction, blah, being used, pressure. Oh, that's right. I believe that you and Dell, maybe more, are postulating the idea of the Earth is an upward accelerator. You're actually in agreement in some way with the Flat Earth Society, because the Flat Earth Society, which I think everyone thinks is a hoax or a psyop or whatever, that's their explanation for gravity, is that the flat Earth is, in fact, accelerating upward. They threw it out. I wonder why. Possibly could it be because it was crap? Who knows? Let's see. Actually, all right. So I'm gonna kind of switch topics in this because I think the Earth is not accelerating upwards. So actually, that leads into something else that I've noticed in the flat Earth community. And again, I think this ties into why it matters that whether or not you believe the Earth is flat or a sphere is the flat Earth community that I've come to witness is eating its own tail. At this point, let me count the. So you have Nathan Oakley and QE. They are the traditionalists, let's say. They believe that the Earth is flat, with unequivocally, the Earth is flat, gravity does not exist, space does not exist. And if pressed, the downward acceleration is due to density disequilibrium. I think I am confident that is correct. That is a correct description of their viewpoint. So you've got the traditionalists. Then you've got the electric earthers. Those are Jaron, Whitsitt. Those are the two main ones I know of. Maybe Flatzoid. I don't know. I actually don't quite understand where Flatzoid fits into all this. But there's that camp, which believes that there is a semi-luminous ether, that the downward acceleration is due to electrostatics or electromagnetism, but the Earth is flat, so forth. However, they, particularly Whitsitt, will use accepted science to back up their claim. So Nathan Oakley and QE, that crew, won't. They will not accept any kind of modern science at all. Whitsitt and Jaron will accept certain science so long as it fits in their paradigm. I believe in one of my discussions with Austin, he freely admitted that he does not believe in the result, or he does not believe in the conclusions, as it were, because so for example, Michelson Morley, which the paper I just actually read this morning, clearly states that the Earth is moving. The Earth is a I don't know if they clearly state it's a globe, but they clearly state the Earth is moving. Whitsitt won't accept that part of the experiment. He believes that again, I do not want to straw man him, but he believes that the Michelson-Morley experiment actually shows something else. And from my understanding, he has been saying that there have been millions of experiments that actually show that light does have a preferred direction, and that preferred direction either amplifies with height or changes with height. I think it amplifies with height. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. So you have them. So you've got traditionalists, you've got etherists, and now we have upwardists, I guess, these folks that are going up. And, I've listened to a couple of debates between the certain folks, particularly between Oakley and Witz's camp, and yeah, that isn't pleasant. There is a large amount of animosity between those two, camps, and it's interesting to me because it comes down to, again, science. It comes to, oh, howdy, Professor Bill. It comes down to science. Nathan Oakley and QE are the whole IVDV. They live and die on that hill. There is, oh no, actually, the last time I heard them, they also bring in CV, which I'm assuming is controlled variables. But they believe in a very, very rigid, structured form of science. They believe that science definitively proves. Whereas Whittingerianism don't exactly say that science, or will say that science proves, but will concede that we are not, we may be missing something, that there may be variables that exist that we are not controlling for, that are not independent, and that are not dependent. That basically our understanding of the situation is incomplete, which apparently the traditionalists don't buy. They just do not go into that. So it's just it seems like why I'm bringing this up is when I was first into this group, there was a definitive lockstep community. You would hear the same arguments, you would hear the same justifications from really everyone involved. Now, as I'm going to refer to it as flat Earth science, as flat Earth science has progressed, that consensus is breaking. It started with, from my experience, from my observations, it started with no longer saying that the Earth was flat. It was no longer about the fact that the Earth was flat. It was more about either I don't know at all, or I know that it's not a globe. I don't know what it is, but I know it's not a globe. So that sort of broke off, and now we have this stuff, which I honestly think is, and a lot of people are looking at this, and they are claiming that flat Earth is dead, although I've heard that claim many times over the last 5 years. But what I can say is I've never seen the flat Earth community this fractured. I've never seen such a divisive community, or the community is so divisive. And from a scientific perspective, if you look at the history of science, that doesn't happen all that often. Not within, say, 5 years. You do have certain camps. Obviously, there was the Big Bang cosmology, steady state cosmology camps, and they went at each other. But ultimately, they came to a consensus. We basically came to a consensus. Oh yeah, the evidence points to the Big Bang. Maybe that'll happen. That'll be the case in this case. Maybe one of the camps will persevere, and things will get back together. But Stephanie, you believe that it's not a spinning globe, but you hate the flat Earth term. So I'm going to say, I'm going to, please feel free to interject. You would you would not say that you know the shape of the Earth, except that it's not a sphere, a spinning sphere. Could it be a sphere that's not spinning? Because that's what that's what Aristotle believed. Aristotle believed that the Earth was in fact a sphere, but that the Earth was not rotating. Would that work? Do you believe that that would work? Because Whitsitt argues that in a way with his relational mechanics argument. Relational mechanics, basically, in a nutshell, says that instead of thinking of the Earth as rotating and everything else as everything else's motion is at least partly caused by that spin, that the Earth is in fact stationary and everything is spinning around it. So no, not a sphere. So no spin, no sphere. Do you know what it is? Do you have an idea of what it is? We live in a celestial sphere rotating around us. Do you have any idea of what that celestial sphere is? What it's made out of? How high it is? Things of that nature. And I'm not expecting you, because I know, when asked, there have been many who have said, I don't know, I'm not expected to know. Well, I'm going to push back on that slightly. If you're going to reject the science that I know to be true, I would at least like people to know, at least have an idea of what it is the replacement they're coming up with. Matter, light, can you be more specific? Real Cygnus, and that solves dark matter energy. Let me scroll up here. Congrats on the landing. Yeah. Yes, I would agree. There are, as ironic as it is, that that we are often accused of having our prophets, the great Neil deGrasse Tyson and Michio Kicho, or whatever. I mispronounced his name, and it was not intentional. I honestly have trouble pronouncing that gentleman's name. They say that they are our prophets, and we follow blindly. Yet it seems to me very much to be the truth within flat earthers. Obviously, Toon refers to them as Papa Flurfs. Is that somebody states something, and then someone else, and then has a grouping of people who just accept what it is they have to say. Matter and light. Indian moon landing. Really, all we have is CGI. Actually, no. What we now have photographs of the moon taken by. I haven't seen anything with the rover. I haven't looked into it. I do know the last thing I looked at was there was a photograph taken by the lander of the lunar surface, and that isn't all we have. I'm sure the Indian Space Agency has telemetry. I'm sure they have data, flight data. That CGI that they displayed, which was probably a very bad idea in certain in hindsight, I guess, I don't know. Is that CGI was rendered based on the telemetry they were getting from the lander. It was there no one said that was what the lander looked like. That was the lander. What that was intended to show was to give audiences a view, a depiction of what the satellite was doing at any given time. Because for India, it's a huge. Well, for the world, it's a huge event. For India, it's a tremendously huge event because it got them into the Moon Club. And kind of in the VIP section of the Moon Club because they did something no one else has. was. They landed on the southern pole of the southern polar region of the moon, and they're gonna be the first ones to really analyze or have the first data on how much water is down there. It's a tremendous feat that they wanted to be able to celebrate with their people, which, yeah, I'm all for. Images don't prove anything in this age of AI. Okay, all right. I will grant you that AI is going to really throw a wrench in the believability of music, the believability of text, the believability of images, so forth and so on. However, again, one part of the first thing I'm going to say is, again, I go from a position of trust. I go from a position of having some insight as to how space agencies operate, and I trust that they're telling me the truth. And so, until that there is evidence that the images they're showing are AI, I'm going to believe them. So, why is it so easy to discount the moon landing, any moon landing? And of course, people are probably going to latch on to the idea that, we have images, the Apollo images. Those are not AI. I suppose you could say that they were altered after the fact or created after the fact, but since we've had them since the 60s, I find that argument to be difficult. So, could a college telescope watch their rocket to the far side of the moon? Again, very much like with the Galaxy and Pinwheel Galaxy and Jupiter, is you're talking about you're talking about a difference in angular scale. We can, I don't know, actually. We have images of JWST being deployed. It is now too faint for us to observe. At least we've never tried, but we had seen it on its way out. And incidentally, we saw it fluctuate in brightness. We saw its brightness vary, and our director Peter, who has direct ties with the JWS team, was like, "Hey, I've got this data. I've got these images that show that JWS2 is varying in brightness. Why?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, it was one of the things that helps." Apparently, and I'm probably gonna get this wrong, but one of the things that they needed to do in order to ensure the trajectory was correct was they needed to spin it. And so JWST, when it was going out to its position at L1, was spinning, and the thing is not uniformly illuminated, or does not have a uniform albedo or reflectivity. So some parts are going to be more reflective than others, and so hence we saw a periodic change in its brightness, which was fantastic. We saw something. We had no idea what it was because obviously they didn't go over the very specific. NASA did not go over the very specifics of what the injection would look like. And then when we talked to them, they're like, "Oh yeah," I'm like, "Awesome." Yeah, really, all at this point, JWST would look like is a dot. Would look like a bright, or would look like a point of light. Again, I don't know how bright it is. Yes, the mirror itself is obviously reflective, but I don't know where it's pointing in relation to the Earth. I'm going to go on a limb and say it's not pointing at the Earth because that would also be pointing at the sun. So probably not. Oh yeah, India also launched a new satellite to observe the sun. Rock on, India is just killing it. Gotta say. La, 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 la. really, to get to your point, to definitively answer your question, I do not believe, I haven't tried or didn't try, but my intuition is we certainly could not resolve the lander as it was going around, or the launch vehicle as it was going around the moon. Could we see, but what could we see could we collect light from it beyond background noise? I don't know. We didn't try. So maybe we should have. I don't know. It didn't even occur to me to try that. Guess I can show you how indoctrinated I am. Let's see. I don't see why we can't make a map off the stars. We navigate by the stars, have thousands of years. It's true. I want to make a map and thought we could from the stars. He said no, so I gave up on the idea. What is this about? We can make stellar maps. We have stellar maps. Are you talking about trying to make a Earth map based on celestial positions? Because that would be weird. Yeah, you would do what would you would go to various points and figure out and use celestial navigation to figure out precisely where you are, and from that you can literally map the Earth. I think that might be circular, but I don't know how to do celestial navigation. Okay. Yes, actually, you know what? If you'll bear with me, I want to do something. I want to show you guys something, because he was a friend of mine, and he went to grad school with me, and he did something actually pretty damn cool. Go, nope. Let's try this. 25 parsec sample. Come on, where is it? Where is it? Solar neighborhood. Maybe that'll work. Neighborhood map. Oh, come on. Adric. And for those Doctor Who fans out there, yes, Adric was actually named after one of Doctor Who's companions. About recons. There it is. There it is. Hold up. Let's do this. This is snazzy. Snazzy! Wah! 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 I like saying wah. Let's do this. So this is a simulation cartoon, if you will, but it uses actual data. One of the things that Recons, which is a group, is a research group at Georgia State, their goal is to create volume limited maps, as it were, or positions of all of the stars at certain distances. So this is the 25 parsec sample. So they have great confidence that they have been able to see every star within 25 parsecs. They've used trigonometric parallax to determine this. And so, given that data set, Adric decided that he would visualize it. And so he did. So if you're curious where all the stars are within 50 light years, 75 light years, something like that. He also talks about planets, although that's probably a little bit outdated. This is a 3D representation. So for all of you gamers out there who want to make an accurate stellar space game, Chris, it's a unit of distance. It's 3.26 meters. Those colors are represented. The red dots correspond to red dwarfs or red stars, lower temperature. Here are your parallaxes. They are, so it gives you an idea of how off it can be, or how off it can be. Within 25 parsecs, we're 5 giants stars. There are 137 white dwarfs. There are no neutron stars. There are no black holes. So there hasn't been a massive star within 25 parsecs that has gone supernova. Probably why we're still here. No O stars, 1B star, 29A, 161F, 1244, G, 550K, 1093M. That is indicative of what we call an initial mass function. That tells us that there are more, when you form stars in a cloud, there are more low mass stars formed than high mass. It is basically a paying function. There are 31 protostars. Of this sample, 1,533 of them are singles. There are 509 binaries, and 19 quadruplets. I don't think there's any. Oh, nope. 5 quintuplets. 1 sex couple. They can keep that in their room. That's an interesting find because another college friend of mine, Earth Institution, was trying to refine the percentage of binary systems, the multiple systems, to single systems. And what she did was she refined and actually confirmed that most stars in the universe are binary. However, in our solar neighborhood, that's not actually the case. Most of the stars within 25 parsecs are, in fact, singles, which I don't know if I've ever heard anyone really talk about that. Why is this explosion caused by AI? I don't care. Don't go away. So, you see a celestial sphere. Well, yes, but that is in a way, a selection bias, in the sense that they wanted the purpose of this was to find all stars within 25 parsecs, meaning within a certain distance. And if you look in all directions, that describes a sphere with radius of 225 parsecs. Now, if you were to look at the distributions of where those stars were, I think it's going to look less So, I don't know. Yeah, sorry about that, Cygnus. I'm using the webcam mic because for some reason the computer is not actually paying attention to my really inexpensive desk mic. So, but yeah, I hope people found that as cool as I did, or at least something as cool as I did. So, go listen to a repeated. I want to write solutions and continuous. I found. All right. See, talking about math, I am not the mathematician that Dr. Wells is. I don't presume to be the mathematician Dr. Wells is, but I do not love mathematics nearly as much as I presume he does, which is why, well, one of the reasons why he is a mathematician and I am not. We are all at the center of the observable universe, and so it is a sphere, but it's not really. That's a one way of putting it. Yeah. Celestial sphere on a flat Earth, easy. Put a colander on your head, and the holes are the stars. It's a hemisphere, but imagine the other half. Rotate it and watch the stars turn. Iggy, Iggy. Yeah, I haven't heard from him again. So, what was I going with? Yeah, I'm not entirely certain either. That's the detail that I'm not familiar with, or don't have an answer to. Is I would agree with Matt in that the that essentially what you have is a dome. I need to lose weight. There's a dome over the flat Earth, and the stars are either physical bodies attached to that sphere or projections on like holographic projections on that sphere. Now, where the stars go at night, I don't know. Or is it that all of the stars in the northern and southern celestial spheres are on the dome? And that very much like the sun and the moon, we only see them because some of the stars are close and some of the stars are far away. If that's the case, I don't see how that works at all. So we observe the stars, moon, and sun rotating around us to first order, yes, but things like stellar aberration, things like stellar parallax indicate that we are in fact moving, as opposed to um, the stars moving around us. And I'm sure there are comparable observations with determining that the moon revolves around us, but rather than us moving around it or under it. But I'm blanking on what that might be at the moment. So, does anyone know how to calculate foreshortening? Not off the top of my head. Apparently, there are ways to do it for drawings. Yeah. That website has equations describing how to account for foreshortening in drawing in absolute perspective drawings. So. All right, folks. I think I've about covered what I wanted to cover. So just to recap, I believe that, yes, it does in fact matter whether or not you believe that the Earth is flat or a sphere or something else. In our everyday lives, doesn't matter from a functional standpoint. No. So long as we don't question how GPS works, so long as we don't question how Google Maps works, and a myriad of other things, so long as we don't care what is happening with those issues, if we only care about what is happening within our with that directly impacts our own life, then no, it certainly doesn't matter, and nor should it. And I'm not saying that people should care about GPS or satellites or whatever. What I am saying is that people should trust folks like Dr. Bell when he says that uh, he helps design and launch or helps put satellites into space. I don't know if he actually designed them, but he contributes to putting satellites in space. So when he tells you that satellites are real and they go into space, I would very much urge you to believe him, unless you have definitive proof otherwise. When I tell you that what you just saw was, in fact, a representation of the reality of our location or of our environment within 25 parsecs, I would like you to believe me. If you care about this, if this is something you actually care about, well, I would like you to believe me anyway. But if you really care about this, if this is something that is that you are passionate about or have an opinion about, then yeah, I think you should trust me. And if you don't, I would very much like to know why. Because I have yet to hear a globe debunk that cannot be explained by either myself or someone else who is knowledgeable in that field of expertise. So, if one has knowledge of astrology, you would truly understand how dependable and predictable the movement of the stars. Okay. Don't know how to take this. Are you suggesting that the field of astrology is more valid than the field of astronomy, particularly in terms of determining the motions of stars? And I really would kind of like an answer to that. Yes, I am the chief astrologer at the Temple of Tune. Yep, I own that. But just to finish off that thought, if you don't believe, if you believe the Earth is flat, I think that is just simply the tip of the iceberg. It comes from something that will affect. I've postulated that comes from a place of distrust. I believe whatever it is, I think that whatever it is, I think that that will affect other views that you have about, or what folks will have about other institutions in life, government, health, I don't know, Catholics, I don't know. Astrology is old science and used to be astronomy, used to be with astronomy, not against it. Well, to be precise, early astronomers were called astrologers. There really wasn't much of a distinction between the two. It wasn't until, actually, I don't know where the distinction ended. I don't know who was actually called an astronomer for the first time as opposed to an astrologer. Um, but the main difference is when we started actually determining the physicality of the universe, those who could predict the motions of stars became astronomers. those who were stuck in the old paradigm stayed astrologers. So, um, yeah, if I can keep babbling for 40 minutes, maybe Rachel will have the time. But unfortunately, I will not have the time because, as I said, I have a public event that I need to start getting prepared for. But yes, Ptolemy believed that the Earth was a globe. Actually, goes far beyond that. Aristotle believed that the Earth was a globe, and he actually put forward a couple of different arguments as to why. I think there are three, but I keep forgetting the third one. The first one was is the obvious ships go over the horizon with, I shouldn't say obvious, but the classic one. Ships go over the curve bottom up. The other one is eclipses. Is when you look at a lunar eclipse, the eclipse has a definitive edge, which is circular, and so therefore the shape of the Earth at least must be a disk. But because you are continually seeing the same curvature all the time, and the Earth does not spin, then it cannot be a disk. That it must also be a sphere. Because he didn't think the Earth spun. But even before him, Pythagoras, and I don't really know why or how, Pythagoras said that the Earth was a globe. The Earth is a globe, at least from the Greeks' perspective, and I dare say the Western perspective. They've known it was a globe for centuries. So this idea that the old science knew better than no, it didn't. And the Ptolemaic model doesn't predict things very well. So I don't know. But yeah, Stephanie, how do you know that astrology predicts things better than astrologers? Because I can I can demonstrate. How would I demonstrate this properly? It would take time for me to demonstrate this, but I could demonstrate to you that my birthday, March 26th, for those of you who would love to give me a present, March 26th, the sun is not, in fact, in the constellation of Aries. It is very well in the constellation of Pisces. This would not be a ambiguous, how do you find the area of Pisces and Aries? No, it is clearly in the constellation of Pisces. And from my understanding, astrology would tell me that it would be in Aries. Pythagoras was debunked by Icky. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just don't. Yeah, that I don't. Vedic astrology? Or are we talking about Eastern astrology? So, so your answer is that Western astrology is not accurate, but Vedic astronomy is. Yep, I do share a birthday with Mr. Spock. Rest in peace. May he rest in peace. Stars follow the exact same path across the sky every 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.1 seconds, which proves the Earth isn't orbiting around the sun. Not quite. Um, I think you will find that does change because if you go to more precision, because the Earth's rotation changes um, fairly frequently, primarily due to the internal composition or the internal structure of the Earth. Basically, because of the blobs of stuff, technical term, blobs of stuff are moving around, which causes the moment of inertia of the Earth to change, which then in turn causes the rotation rate to change. Then on top of that, though, the stars aren't fixed. We know this. This is definitively shown. This is demonstrable. You can. Tycho Brahe has very precise observations of Polaris. To him, Polaris was 3 degrees off of minutes or degrees. I want to say degrees. It was 3 degrees off of 90, a declination of 90. Now it's less than a degree. We have to continually update. Back before the age of computers, we would have star coordinates in epochs. When I was coming up, we just started using Epoch 2000. Prior to that, it was Epoch 1950. And what I mean by that is you would use those coordinates. Those coordinates were observationally determined, I believe, in 1950. And then we use those coordinates until 50 years later, where we had to make more, we had to update them. We had to figure out where they were again. We updated them. I believe, I'm actually fairly positive that there is a way to, actually, I'm not even going to say that. Nowadays, with computers, we can have to the day, or like up to the minute. And if you, and again, I can show you with the telescope. If I were to punch in the coordinates of an object with Epoch 2000 coordinates, as opposed to current Epoch, they would not point in the same, the telescope would not point to the same position. And if my pointing was really good, which at the moment it's not, my pointing was really good, if I use the current Epoch, I would be pretty much dead on. If I use the Epoch 2000, it would not. The stars do not, or the stars are not, and they are fixed, and this is a demonstrable show, or this is demonstrably shown. Vedic astrology natal chart. Yeah, that's basically what I was talking about. Is if you define, and again, I'm not an astrologer, despite what some of my students tell me I am. I'm not an astrologer, but because of the precession of the Earth, or at least that's the explanation for it. You can accept it or not. The precession of the Earth, the position of the Sun in certain constellations has changed, and your sign that you look up in your paper is the area of the sky where the Sun was when you were born. So theoretically, and again, I could be wrong about this. I'm on paper, I'm an Aries, which means that when I was born, Aries, or the Sun, was in the constellation of Aries. But that's not true. I use stellarium based on our understanding of precession, coordinate change, or proper motion, all that good stuff. Well, at least precession. The Sun is clearly in Pisces. Now, if you want to get technical about the whole thing, oh yeah, and I will say for funsies that then I am an Aries of all of the zodiacal signs. Yeah, I identify most with Aries. So I have it tattooed on my arm. Do I think that it influences my life? No. Do I recognize that I am probably experiencing some kind of confirmation bias? Yeah, I acknowledge that. But I think it's cool. I think it's fun. So don't yuck my yum, guys. So yeah, my sign is no parking. I dated someone whose sign was no entry. Didn't end well. Did I see the James Randi astrology demo? No, I haven't. Um, the other point that I point out to my students, although arguably this there is an argument to be made why there should only be 12 signs, but so astronomers at some point, again, I don't remember, I think it was like in the mid 1600s, I don't know, guessing somewhere in that big range, 16 to 1800s. Somebody decided, all right, we have 88 constellations. Let's define the actual area of a constellation. It's not just the stick figures, but it's all the stars are in and around the stick figure. So let's define that. And so someone did, and we just stuck to it. And so there, by definition, the zodiacal signs are the signs, are the constellations through which the sun passes, appears to pass as it appears to go around the Earth. Well, by astronomers' definition, the sun goes through the constellation of Ophiuchus. So there are actually 13 signs as defined by modern astronomy. Granted, the sun is only in Ophiuchus for like 2 weeks, but it's still clearly in Ophiuchi. So there are Ophiuchans out there who no one cares about. No one cares about those poor souls. They will never know what their actual futures are. Can't go by sun sign. All right. I'll give a couple of college students personal astrology readings and have them all agree how accurate it was. And they traded. Turns out they were identical. Yeah, confirmation bias. But hey, astrology is nonsense. Okay, it's meaningful to some. From an astronomical point of view, I do not agree with Stephanie in that astrology is predictive of stellar positions. I do not. My 2 cents, is that Gary? That would make sense because the first thing you started out with was the sidereal ray. Gary, did you sneak back in here with a new account? All right, but you better be nice or you're gonna get kicked. So anyway, yeah. So astrology is no longer used as a science. While it is predictive, from my understanding, it is predictive in terms of a subjective nature of how things are going to happen, which again is subjective. It does not say anything about how stars form, which I am more interested in, or how planets form, which I'm more interested in, or where the aliens are coming from. Epsilon Eridani. I mean, I didn't say that. There are no aliens on Epsilon Eridani. I would never give out that information. That there is a thriving civilization of reptilian aliens living on Epsilon Eridani. B. No, I would not say that. That is not. I would not say that. It's an old sock account. Most of these guys know it's me. Okay, well, it's a sock account created in 21. I did not know that. Yes, Gary, you are right. Again, astronomy and astrology are not the same thing. Again, even if my students seem to think so, at least they call it the same thing, which makes me a little sad. But I'm over it. I'm used to it. I'm like, all right, cool. Did I rate you because you're wrong is so anti-science it hurts. Phil Bell, I have no problem being wrong like I was with RDD. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't know why people make such a big deal about being wrong. Being wrong is good stuff. I don't really agree. Like personally, from a psychological level, I don't agree with that nonsense. But they tell me if that you're wrong, and you admit that you're wrong. A, you're being honest, and B, you're learning. Because if you're always right, then you're not learning nothing. Granted, if you're always right, then you're always right, and that I think is a great thing. But technically speaking, if you don't get it wrong, you're really not learning anything, or at least that's what they tell me. So, astronomy describes me to a T. You mean astrology? Wow, this is the first time. This is the first time I have ever seen someone get it wrong the other way. Usually, people refer to astronomy as astrology. This is the first time I've seen astrology refers to as astronomy. Very nice. Very nice. You have put a smile on my face, Richie. There are no aliens. There are demons and fallen angels. Okay. All right. I'll stick around for another 10 minutes to somewhat explore that. Gary, do you have any evidence of demons and or fallen angels? Autocorrect. Right, Rachie. Right. Autocorrect. Yeah, I believe you. I've heard that one before. Good one. um, actually, if I would imagine there's one or two folks out there who would in fact think that I'm a demon, or at least doing a demon service. So that would sort of track, I guess. Okay, I'm going to give you another 30 seconds to respond, although I don't know how much delay there is. So, but yeah, I am genuinely curious why you say that there are no aliens, but there are demons and fallen angels. All through the scripture. Okay, biblical evidence. All right, okay. So hoping for a little bit more than that, but all right. Isn't an explanation evidence enough for demons, fallen angels? Sadly, no, not for me. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. With that, Miss Rachie, how would I combat that? How would I convince you otherwise? Well, I would say that I will say that there is no empirical evidence of demons and fallen angels. And that is the difference between what Gary says and what I say. Is that there is empirical evidence supporting what I say. That evidence can be found. That evidence can be found in textbooks, and it can be found in primary source literature. It's there if you want to see it, if you want to read it. So that one, the Bible says the Bible is true, so why don't you just believe that, Rob? Does the Bible say it's true? The Bible says it's the word of God. But I don't believe, and I could be very, very wrong, but I do not believe the Bible refers to itself as being the literal Word of God. And actually, when it talks about the Word of God, that is in Luke, or excuse me, that's in John, and the Word of God is Christ, not the Bible. So I don't know about that. If you want to get into a theological discussion, that's something I will definitely be getting into tomorrow. Yay! Jim, if you're watching this, yeah, I don't know. I'm not discounting I'm not diminishing our conversation. I'm not discounting it. I just know that it's going to be potentially contentious. We cannot read a book about fallen angels and demons. You can read a book about fallen angels and demons, but that book will not provide empirical evidence, nor will it provide a physical justification for their existence. Textbooks will walk you through why these things exist from a physical standpoint, what it is, how a white dwarf forms. There is a textbook that will tell you from a mathematical description how the star goes through its stages of evolution of a certain mass, and then how there is an adiabatic instability within the envelope of the star, and that causes violent pulsations, which cause the star to cause that gas to exceed the escape velocity of the star itself. That gets blown out in successive waves in a very, very short time scale. All of that is described mathematically through known and thoroughly evidenced physics. Fallen angels and demons, there is no such textbook that can walk me through that. There is no peer-reviewed science that shows me this person was in fact possessed by Beelzebub or Bob, the friendly neighborhood fallen angel. That is the difference between claiming something and actually positing something to be true. Part of the coming deception is that there are aliens. Globies will believe that. Not really. Some will, obviously. That's actually one of the conspiracy theories out there is alien believers, people who think the government is run by reptilians. That is a conspiracy theory. Again, no strong evidence for it. Now, it's interesting if you've read the Demon Haunted World by Carl Sagan. He actually makes a direct line between folks who believed in demonic possession to folks who believe in alien abduction. If you look at according to Sagan, if you look at the written accounts of people who were supposedly possessed and those who were supposedly abducted, the accounts are quite similar, which would indicate a deeper psychological reason for why these folks believe in what they do. Sagan does not point to what that reason is. He just points out that folks have been experiencing the same kinds of things and attributing them to supernatural or extraterrestrial origins without proof. Time to explain to my internet provider. Great. Yep, that's my main problem with that with the existence of aliens on our planet is it would take a considerable amount of resources in order to travel from one planet to another. Unless our understanding of physics is wrong and faster than light travel is possible, it would take a tremendous investment of time and resources to get here. And then to hide themselves from us, except from Farmer Bill and mutilate his cattle, and that's what you came all the way over here to do, strikes me as implausible. Oops. The future will show that you are correct in what? That the globe community will accept aliens as a fact? Well, maybe if aliens actually do show up, or if someone actually breaks into Area 51 and um, can produce the alien biologics. Oh, incidentally, just that kind of reminds me. So this semester I'm teaching my intro to a cosmology course, and as it happens, I don't know how, but retirees will take the class. I've almost every time I've taught this, every time I've taught this class, I have had someone audit the class who was a retiree. This time around, I have a retired atomic physicist, PhD atomic physicist, and the other day he told me that he actually worked in Hangar 51, or has been rather. He worked at the base, but he has been in Hangar 51, and he has assured me he has not seen evidence of aliens. Maybe the government will start blaming aliens for the attacks, like in Maui. That would be extraordinary. Um, because the government is, well, hopefully the government is highly suspicious. Well, if the government is hiding aliens, because that they have to be in order for this to make sense, then why would they blame aliens for natural disasters if they're trying to hide them? They're trying to make them secret. If they're trying to make them secret, I don't. I don't follow that logic. Maui was a wildfire. Yes, yes, it was. It was a Maui was a wildfire. The California wildfires of a particular time were not caused by lasers of a certain religious / ethnic group. Um, I can't even fathom a land grab. Who can't fathom a land grab? If you're talking about what do they call them? I've completely. If you're talking about the lovely people who go in after a natural disaster and buy up land cheap, yeah, I believe they exist. And actually, the governor of Hawaii certainly believes them to exist, because he has set down an executive order that will not happen. So yeah, there will not be a land grab in Maui. The governor has already nipped that in the bud. So, but then again, they are coming from UFO unidentified aerial. It's a UFO. That's another thing in Rob World. Pluto is a planet, and they're UFOs. They are not UAPs. It's ridiculous that was named. They renamed them. Why? Why rename UFO is perfectly fine. You think that if you rename them UAP, people won't think they're aliens? True. If Miss Green were not an elected representative, she would be amusing in a certain extent, although her claims about Sandy Hook are pretty reprehensible. Let's see. A lot of people who are on the land are dead. Yes, yes, they are. At least, but they do have relatives. I mean, I have to think that some of those plots of land are not going to, or the families may have been completely, sadly, eradicated. But again, the rule is somebody has to own that land. And that ownership, unless I really hope you're not suggesting that the government burned the land to kill these folks so that they could only get certain parcels of land if they managed to eradicate entire families. Because as I've said, the ownership of the land of the people who died is going to transfer over to their loved ones. And the governor has already stated that there will not be any predatory land deals. So, okay, Stephanie, that is what you're claiming. I think I'm going to leave that discussion. There are lots of UFOs in Ukraine at the moment. Yeah, I suppose. Let's see. We will have to set something up. What was Rachel saying before? But again, they are coming out with. So even NASA. Oh, I think. Are you asking why Congress, for example, um, had their meetings? Why the Air Force decided to um, declassify things? That's a good question. I don't know why. I don't know why they did it, but I'm glad they are. It's showing it's showing a certain amount of transparency. Of course, you could believe that it's not actually transparency, that they're serving a narrative. They're trying to say yes, these things do exist, but there is this person there is a rational explanation. They're trying to, like I said, they're trying to hoodwink you by giving you what you want, kind of, or what folks want, kind of. Everyone, be sure to watch my latest video, which shows the real reason equatorial mounts cannot accurately track anything at 15 degrees per hour from horizon to horizon. They always fail near the horizon. Doesn't include refraction, because I bet it doesn't. Gary, I will say that in an absolute sense, will a telescope track perfectly from horizon to horizon? Will the star never move? You are correct. It will not, because of tracking errors and refraction. But from a practical standpoint, I have never had a field of view so small as to have to move the telescope in order to compensate. We're the government. We're here to help. Stephanie, why the distrust? Why is there so much distrust? What is it that the government has done that will cause you to believe that they are massacring people and to steal their land? There's government malfeasance. Yes, there is government malfeasance. People steal from the government, or the government steals from people. Sure, I accept that. Do I agree with it? No. Do I condone it? No. Do I believe that it's happening? Yes. Do I believe that the government has morally questionable activities in foreign countries? Yes. They even admit to some. But do I believe that the government is massacring people for land grab? Ask the Native Americans. Can you point to a more recent example? I don't want the job, Rachie. I do not want the job of president. I saw what it did to Obama, the before and after pictures. Dude aged by a decade. Well, I guess he was in office he aged by decades, even though he was in office for 8 years. Thanks. I appreciate the support. But yeah, I don't want the job. All right. Anyway, like I said, I've been at this for a while. And I have a public event that I need to get to. I will most certainly be going live later tonight because I have access to the telescope. I don't know when I'll start um, because I didn't quite get my schedule nocturnal enough. So I might take a nap between the public event and not. Who am I kidding? And no, I'm not. I suspect that I will be going live with views from our telescope um, sometime 5 hours from now, around 11 p.m. Uh, possibly no, 11 p.m. Eastern time. So no, 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 no. I don't know how forcefully I can say this, but no, absolutely not. No, never. There is not a single multiverse. I refuse to accept that even an infinite possibility of universes, there is a Rob who would run as Trump's running mate. Nope, nope, no, 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 no. You're welcome, Stephanie. I'm glad. Um, yes, and actually, there are more nefarious. I had more nefarious schemes in my head to achieve the same result, but I would have to be on the campaign trail. I would have to say things like he would be good to be a president. I would have to lie. I would have to bear his presence. Um, no, 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 no. Now, if by chance that individual runs and has, let's say, Chris Christie as his running mate, never going to happen, but let's say it does. And then he pops off. And Chris Christie then says, "Hey, Rob, be my VP." I would possibly consider it. And then if he were to pop off, then I would become president. But like I said, I don't want the job. Uh, yeah, I think that I would be ill-suited ill-suited psychologically for that job. Um, yes, I am certainly not orange enough, and even though I have fairly small hands, they are certainly bigger than Trump's. Anyway, before this devolves into more more political shenanigans, I'm going to sign off. Thank you all for being here. Again, I am Professor Parks, PhD. If you like astronomy content, if you like content on mental health, if you like content like this, talking about science skepticism, please like, share, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. And if you'd like to support me, the link to my Patreon will be in the description at some point. And you can also find it on my About page. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I would love to know your thoughts about what I have said here in terms of um, really sort of the psychology of things. I mean, I don't want people to diagnose others by any stretch, but I would love to hear why you think the why you think people are skeptics of science, or why you think that it doesn't matter what the shape of the Earth is, even if you are actively positing it to be not a globe. Um, so yeah. All right. I'm signing off. And as always, peace out and clear skies.